welcome to another exciting episode of From Top to Tyres with AE Racing.
My name's Rob.
My name's Mike.
Now, Lancia were innovative, creative and basically at the forefront of rally when their Stratos dominated the World Rally Championship.
Their Stratos dominated. This Stratos is not really like any other Stratos you've seen before, and it definitely weren't built by Lancia, that's for sure. This was built by a man in his shed.
What was the last thing you built in your shed, Mike?
I brought along. So this motor. What I was going to try and do is, you see where the connections are here.
So back to the story. Now, Andy's brother wanted a race car, a very fast race car, and Andy wanted to build a race car that tested his boundaries and his engineering capabilities.
Yeah, and what he ended up building was this incredible, what he called his Lancia Stratos. And we're going to go through it from top to tyres.
When you're building a car that's designed for pure speed, often they become quite difficult to work on or access any of the parts that you need to get to. But Andy thought ahead on this, and instead of making multiple little panels, he designed a one-piece composite panel that literally lifts off the entire car, giving you access to everything you need to get to. And not only that, this one-piece composite panel weighs 10 kg, which is basically the same as a dash hound sausage dog. Woof.
The goal with this absolute weapon of trying to stay as light as possible has never been overlooked. From the one-piece body to the carbon composite chassis, the whole thing in race trim comes in at a staggering 475 kilograms. Now that's the sort of weight that Eddie Hall, the British strongman, the world strongman, he could deadlift this off the floor. It might take a bit of doing, but he'd deadlift it. He's done it before. But to put it into context, this is my normal road car, the 350Z. That's 1,600 kilograms. That's 3 times heavier than this.
So when you've spent over 8,000 hours designing and building a completely unique race car, you're going to want to make it as fast as possible. And so this is where we come to the engine. Now, the engine on this car is under this part of the panel here. And you're going to want some bang for your buck. Buck in this case being the fact that you want to make it as lightweight as possible. And so obviously, Andy decided that you've got to use a motorbike engine for it. You'd have seen many race cars over the years using motorbike engines, such as the early Radicals for example, and the majority of these types of cars use the wonderful Hayabusa engine. Why? Because it's strong, light and extremely powerful out the box. Now, as Mike keeps telling me, you can never have too much power, and Andy must have been on the same wavelength as that, because he's decided, screw it, let's chuck a turbo on it.
Now you do have to be careful with your thirst for power, because for some people it can become a very dangerous and expensive addiction.
Hey man, what we got?
Some hoses or some boost. This is just for the big boys, mate.
I'll take the boost.
You sure you want the boost?
I'll take the boost.
You can't handle the boost. But sensibly, Andy made this engine combination as safe and usable. More importantly, usable. 320 odd brake horsepower. Now that's a decent amount. That's not to be sniffed at. That's the same sort of power that you'd get from a Porsche Cayman GTS, Ferrari 412, TTRS for example. You know, it's a decent chunk of power. Now it's combining that with the aero package that's on here, giving it an immense drag to lift ratio. Now that's the important bit. And Rob's over there trying to figure out exactly what that means.
Okay, so All I know is that according to the laws of physics, somehow this incredibly designed tarmac chewing monster of a car can become 3.5 times heavier when achieving full downforce. Basically what this means is the faster you go, the more force you've got pushing you to the track, sticking you to the track.
We've reached the point, the very crucial point where all this happens, which is the wheels and tyres. Now, as most cases in racing, the more rubber that's in contact with the tarmac, the more grip you've got, which means the faster you can go around corners. But what we want is some nice, thick, really wide rubber, some slicks, to get as much of it to the ground as possible. Now, we want more on the back to help get all that power down for when we're launching off the line, because all this aero, as great as it all is, ain't going to do nothing when you're coming out of a low-speed hairpin or trying to beat someone to the first corner.
But on the other hand, you don't want too much at the front of the car, otherwise it's going to make the steering really heavy and hard to turn. So having the correct ratio of front to back tyres can really improve and make a big difference on car handling.
We've covered all the things that Andy has done to make this thing incredibly fast. But as Spider-Man's brother-in-law, I think it was, said something along the lines of, with great speed becomes great responsibility. What we're trying to get to is the brakes. Going fast is great, but stopping and getting around the corners is where you're going to find the extra lap time that you need.
And Andy has even told us that he's used the brakes from an F3 car. Now, according to my spec sheet, that's 2 down from F1.
Anyway, as we've mentioned many times, everything on this car is custom made. That means one-offs. It's not like you can pop to Halfords or any other local car shop that you want to go to and buy some off-the-shelf stuff. Everything had to be custom made, so mounting points, the brakes, where everything bolts from one bit to the next, the alignment, the geometry for all the suspension. I mean, it's just far beyond my comprehension, to be honest. So you've got kingpin inclination, which is the angle that's from here to here. Then you've got caster angle, which is the angle from here to here. And then you've got camber angle. Now that one's a bit different because this one goes around from this point to this point. And then you've got toe in and toe out. Yeah, thank God for that, I didn't have any more written down. So, what have you learned from today's epic tale, Rob?
Well, basically, if you want to build an awesome, fast car like this, you're going to need to put thousands of hours into developing and designing the car, have a very good understanding of math, and that's before you even start putting it all together.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even started speaking about the price of making all of these custom parts.
So you might as well just call somebody like Andy, to be honest.
We'll just call Andy, yeah.
Or, if you don't need to call someone like Andy, then you should call us, because we want to see what you're building.
Yeah. I mean, it almost makes you appreciate those old boys you mentioned earlier, the guys that go out on the Sunday.
Yeah.
F1. That's the
old Michael Hamilton, red car.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's the one.
So, if you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we've got loads more to come. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Cheers. Sorry, Michael.